When the final breath trembles on the edge of life, there comes a moment so silent, so heavy, that even the walls seem to listen. It is the moment when a person realizes that everything they clung to, wealth, identity, strength, fear, remains behind, and only the truth of their soul steps forward. In Islamic teaching, this transition is not gentle background poetry. It is a rupture between worlds, a sudden lifting of the veil that kept the unseen hidden. One heartbeat you belong to the world, the next you stand at the doorway of eternity, aware that what comes next will reveal who you truly were beneath every mask, every excuse, every forgotten intention. Before we continue, tell me in the comments where in the world you're watching this from, and make sure you subscribe so you don't miss the rest of this journey. From the instant life slips away, the soul awakens to a reality it had always sensed, but never witnessed. There is no confusion, no fading into darkness, only the shocking clarity of detachment, as if the world you knew suddenly becomes a distant echo. You understand that your body is no longer you, that the heartbeat you depended on was nothing more than a temporary guest room for your soul. In this first moment, the soul feels a strange mixture of liberation and trembling awareness, because everything ahead unfolds based on the life you lived. And in that suspended breath between worlds, the unseen realm begins to reveal itself. The angel of death does not arrive as a shadowy myth, but as a being of absolute purpose, accompanied by angels whose presence reflects the truth of your life. For the righteous, their arrival is described as soothing and noble, their faces radiant with a peace that dissolves fear. They carry fragrances from paradise and speak words that calm the trembling soul, assuring it that what lies ahead is not darkness, but a return to mercy. The soul feels itself being drawn out gently, like water flowing from a vessel, effortless and welcomed. But for the one who spent life ignoring reminders, rejecting purpose, or filling their days with heedlessness, the moment is starkly different. The angels around them are described as stern, unwavering, their presence overwhelming. The soul clings desperately to the body, refusing to leave the world it once dominated. Yet nothing can prevent what has been written. The extraction becomes a struggle, described in Islamic texts as tearing, pulling, resisting, because the soul is being separated from attachments it was never meant to worship. Suddenly, the illusions of life collapse. The achievements, the distractions, the pride, all evaporate in the presence of angels who cannot be persuaded or delayed. Whether the moment is peaceful or terrifying, one realization becomes undeniable. The journey has begun, and there is no negotiation, no return, no second attempt. The soul is now fully aware that everything ahead is shaped not by status, wealth, or reputation, but by intentions, actions, sincerity, and the quiet choices made when no one was watching. The realm of the unseen, which once felt distant and symbolic, now stands vividly before the soul with a clarity more real than anything it ever experienced in the world it left behind. The extraction is only the beginning. The angels now prepare to carry the soul toward the next stage, and with every moment, the separation from the body becomes deeper. The soul realizes that life was merely the opening chapter, and the true story, its eternal story, is only now unfolding. When the soul separates from the body, a strange clarity floods its awareness, clearer than sight, deeper than thought, more vivid than anything it ever experienced in the world it just left behind. It sees its own lifeless form lying there, motionless and fragile, and for the first time understands how temporary the human body truly was. The soul watches the people around it, seeing their tears, hearing their cries, sensing their heartbreak as if from behind a veil. It tries to speak, to comfort them, to tell them that it is still conscious, still aware, still present, but nothing reaches them. There is no voice anymore, no way to interact with the world it lived in for decades. This is the first realization of Barzakh. You are close enough to witness everything, yet separated by a barrier that cannot be crossed. You watch your loved ones rush, call others, whisper prayers, hold your hand, even though you cannot feel it. You see the shock on their faces, the disbelief, the sorrow, and only then do you understand the weight your presence once carried. Every regret that was postponed, every apology unsaid, every moment taken for granted suddenly becomes sharp and unavoidable. Time feels different now, no longer measured in seconds or breaths, but in awareness, in reflection, in truth. As people begin to prepare your body, washing it gently and wrapping it in pure white cloth, the soul hovers close, drawn by instinct, pulled by familiarity. It sees the hands that once fed it, raised it, cared for it, now performing one final act of love. It hears the quiet recitations, the trembling voices, the urgent prayers asking God to forgive, to show mercy, to ease your journey. The soul begins to understand that everything happening is not for the body, it is for the journey it is about to face. There is no more pretending, no more distractions, no more hiding from truth. The world feels like a fading memory, slipping further away with each passing moment, while the unseen realm grows more vivid, more demanding, more real. When the funeral procession begins, the soul follows closely, carried not by footsteps, but by a pull that feels both natural and unavoidable. It hears every word spoken, every tearful farewell, every reminder of life's fleeting nature. It recognizes voices that once brought joy or comfort, and others that spark memories of pain, conflict, or missed opportunities. Nothing is hidden anymore. Not intentions, not emotions, not secrets buried deep within the heart. The soul sees its entire earthly story reflected in the faces around it, understanding for the first time how its presence shaped the lives of others. The body is lowered into the grave, and the soul senses something shift, an opening, a transition, a thinning of the boundary that separates this world from the next. When the final handfuls of earth fall onto the grave, a sudden, heavy silence descends. Footsteps fade, conversations quiet, and the living walk away, returning to their world while the soul remains behind, fully aware that it has entered a stage where human companionship no longer exists. This is the moment the soul confronts a truth it had always known but rarely contemplated. The grave is not a place of emptiness, it is a place of arrival. The darkness around the body begins to shift, not physically, but spiritually, as two beings approach, massive in presence, unmistakable in purpose. Munkar and Nakir, the angels assigned to question the newly departed, step into a space where light and shadow behave by rules unknown to the living. Their presence is overwhelming, not because they are cruel, but because they represent the pure reality of accountability. The soul feels their nearness, senses the gravity of their mission, and understands that this moment was not a mystery. It was foretold throughout life, echoed in verses, sermons, and reminders that were often ignored. The questioning begins, not as an interrogation, but as a revelation of truth. They ask who your Lord was, what faith you lived by, and who you followed as a messenger. These answers cannot be memorized. They come from the soul's true alignment, the heart's genuine loyalty, the life actually lived. For some, the answers flow effortlessly, like instinct, like breathing, like recognition of something they always knew. For others, confusion replaces clarity, fear replaces confidence, and silence becomes the undeniable exposure of a life that never nurtured its faith. When the questioning ends, the grave responds. It is alive in ways the human mind cannot fully imagine. For the soul that lived with sincerity, the grave widens, filling with light, comfort, and a fragrance not of earth but of paradise. For the one who lived heedlessly, the grave tightens, constricting until it feels as though the earth itself is pressing inward. A window to one's eternal destination briefly opens, showing either peace so overwhelming it soothes every fear, or a terror so real it shakes the soul to its core. The moment the angels of questioning stand before the soul is unlike anything it imagined in life. Their presence is overwhelming, not because they are cruel, but because they radiate absolute truth. There is no room for pretending, no space for excuses, no escape into distractions. Every layer of the soul is exposed, every intention laid bare, and every belief tested with a clarity that cannot be denied. The angels ask their questions with a calmness that shakes the soul more than shouting ever could. Who is your Lord? What was your way of life? Who did you follow as a messenger in the world you left behind? These questions seem simple, but they are not answered by memory or words. They can only be answered by the heart's true allegiance, the soul's real convictions, the life actually lived. A tongue once capable of speech is now useless. Only the soul speaks, and it speaks truth whether one wants it to or not. For the person who tried to live with sincerity, even imperfectly, even with struggles, the answers rise effortlessly, like instinct. The soul feels recognition, warmth, and a sense of certainty that flows not from confidence, but from familiarity, as though these truths were threads woven into its very being. But for the one who treated faith as a formality, who lived without grounding their heart in remembrance or purpose, the moment becomes suffocating. The tongue cannot move, the heart trembles, and the soul tries to search for answers that simply do not exist within it. The angels do not intimidate, they reveal. And what is revealed is the soul's true state, stripped of all illusions it carried during life. The realization that beliefs cannot be faked here strikes deeper than regret. It becomes a wound of truth that the soul must now face. When the questioning ends, the atmosphere around the soul shifts. It feels the weight of the answers ripple outward, shaping what comes next. There is no court, no jury, no debate, only the soul's own reality unfolding. It is in this moment that the grave transforms from a silent resting place into a world responding to the soul's inner truth. The grave responds not with emotion, but with divine justice. For the righteous soul, the earth gently expands, stretching outward until the confined space becomes a vast, peaceful expanse. Light emerges, not from torches or flames, but from the tranquility of divine approval. A window opens, an opening into a glimpse of paradise, allowing fragrances more soothing than anything on earth to drift in. This vision removes every fear, calming the soul with a peace that washes through it like a breeze after a long storm. It understands that this is only a preview, a promise of what awaits, and the days in Barzakh will be filled with comfort, security, and the companionship of angels who bring reassuring messages from the mercy of God. But for the soul that lived in heedlessness, the transformation is starkly different. The grave begins to tighten, pulling inward until the pressure feels unbearable. Darkness fills the space, a darkness not of absence, but of consequence. In this constricted chamber, a window also opens, but it reveals a glimpse of hell, a sight so overwhelming that the soul recoils in terror. The heat, the dread, the sense of being exposed to a reality it denied in life crash over it all at once. This glimpse is not punishment. It is a warning of what lies ahead if nothing changes on the day of judgment. The grave becomes a place of fear, regret, and anxious anticipation, where the soul confronts the weight of wasted opportunities, neglected responsibilities, and ignored reminders. In both cases, whether peaceful or terrifying, the grave becomes a world that reflects the soul, shaping an experience that will last until the day of resurrection. The righteous soul rests in comfort, visited by angels who remind it that the hardship of life is over. The misguided soul endures a state of suffocating anxiety, its thoughts filled with regret and the longing to return to life for just one more chance, even though it knows such a chance will never come. In this vast silence of Barzakh, the soul finally understands the truth it often overlooked. Life on earth was temporary, but what comes after is the true home, shaped entirely by the choices made in secret, in public, in moments of strength, and in moments of weakness. In the earliest days of Barzakh, the soul begins to understand its new existence with a clarity it never had in life. Time no longer behaves in familiar ways. Minutes and hours lose meaning, replaced instead by awareness, reflection, and the unfolding of truth. The first 3 days after death are described by many scholars as a period where the soul settles into the condition it earned, either a state of peace and expansion or a state of fear and tightening. During this time, the soul is still closely connected to the world it left, feeling the echoes of the prayers made on its behalf, sensing the grief of loved ones, and witnessing how people speak about it in its absence. These reflections are not simply observations. They strike deeply, reminding the soul of every relationship, every kindness, every wound left unresolved. In this early period, the righteous soul feels comforted when it hears its name mentioned in dua, sensing the warmth of loved ones calling upon God to show mercy. Meanwhile, the soul that lived in neglect feels a heavier weight, realizing how quickly the world moves on and how little it prepared for this new chapter. The presence of angels during these days reinforces the certainty of this new reality, reassuring for some, overwhelming for others, and the soul begins to settle into the environment its deeds have shaped. The grave becomes a mirror, reflecting not the body within it, but the truth of the life once lived. As days pass in Barzakh, the soul no longer clings to the world with the same intensity. The separation grows clearer, and it understands that life was not the destination but the test, and now the results of that test are unfolding. The righteous soul is visited by angels who speak words that ease the heart, saying that what is coming will be far greater than what was left behind. These visits are not casual. They are moments meant to strengthen the soul, reminding it that although the wait for the day of resurrection may be long, the comfort granted to it will make the waiting feel light. In contrast, the soul that turned away from guidance faces a heavy silence, a silence that amplifies every regret. It longs for the world again, not for pleasure, but for the chance to fix what was broken, to pray the prayers it rushed through, to apologize to those it hurt, to spend even 1 minute with sincerity. But the realization that no return is possible settles in, and this awareness shapes its experience in Barzakh profoundly. There is no distraction, no escape, no way to drown out truth. The soul now lives with the full weight of honesty. Beyond the first days, the journey in Barzakh stretches into a span known only to God. Some souls rest as if in a garden, feeling breezes of peace and glimpses of paradise that give them reassurance whenever fear arises. They feel protected, loved, and safe, with the knowledge that the hardships of life are now behind them. Others find themselves in a state of ongoing distress, not physical torture, but the mental and spiritual anticipation of what might come. They wonder constantly about the day of judgment, fearing that the glimpse shown to them through the window of their grave may be only a hint of something far worse. These souls experience the consequences of their lives not as punishment, but as the natural outcome of choices that distanced them from mercy. The grave becomes either a temporary haven or a place of anxious waiting, and the soul begins to understand that this phase is not an end, but a pause before the greatest event humanity will ever face. When the trumpet is finally blown, when the command is given for the universe to collapse and rise again, every soul in Barzakh will feel it. The earth will shake, the skies will tear, and everything that once existed will be pulled into a single moment of divine command. The souls will rise from their graves, not with confusion, but with the absolute certainty that the promise has come true. On that day, the righteous will feel relief, knowing that the waiting is over and the journey to their eternal home is about to begin. The fearful will feel a dread deeper than anything they could have imagined, understanding that the time for warnings is gone and the time for account has arrived. All of humanity will stand before God, kings and beggars, scholars and laborers, the famous and the forgotten, equal, humbled, and aware that only their deeds can speak for them now. The first 3 days after death are only the doorway into a realm that stretches far beyond human imagination. Barzakh is not a dream, not a myth, not a symbolic metaphor. It is a stage of existence more real than the life we cling to. The soul experiences everything there with a sharpness, a depth, and a truth that life often masks. And as it awaits the day of resurrection, whether in peace or in fear, one understanding becomes crystal clear. The choices made in life determine everything that follows, and nothing in this new world can be rewritten.